Hey, what's up? Welcome to Inside the Mavs. Kevin Gray, Grant Afseth here. Really appreciate you joining us here on our YouTube channel. I'm at Kevin Gray Sports. Grant, of course, at Grant Afseth on YouTube as well. Appreciate you joining us here as we preview the Dallas Mavericks 2024-25 NBA season. You can find me on X at Kevin Gray Sports. You can find Grant on X at Grant Afseth. Grant, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Very excited to get the season started with, the time of recording the day before that first regular season game we've been waiting months for, coming off a finals run. So definitely excited to talk about the Mavericks again, write about them when they're playing meaningful basketball games.
Yeah. And for those who are watching this will exclusively be on our YouTube channel. So for me at Kevin Gray Sports, for Grant on his YouTube channel at Grant Afseth, and you can be able to watch it. We'll do this a couple of times a week, an opportunity for us to be able to still talk about the Mavs. Of course, I cover and talk about the Mavericks for DLLS Sports on DLLS Mavs 5 times a week, but I'll also be doing my own content here on YouTube as well, continuing to talk about the Mavs when we're off on off days and other special occasions as well. But we'll look to do this a couple of times a week at least to continue to give you the best when it comes to talking about the Mavericks. Grant, where can they find you as far as your work and what you've got going on these days?
Yeah, I switched off of the SI platform from their Mavericks team site to my own Substack platform called DallasHoopsJournal.com. I've gotten a good amount of people to subscribe to that one so far. Really excited to keep building that throughout the season. So I'll have all of my Maverick stuff on there for the most part. And then, just some general NBA contributions as well to, websites like sportskita.com with some player interviews and some occasional projects on Bleacher Report as well, too.
So looking forward to some tremendous stuff from Grant all season long as well. Make sure you're subscribing to him as well. But let's jump into it. The Mavericks looking to get back to the NBA Finals after an incredible run last year, making the Finals for the first time since 2011. They will open up the season against Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. The Mavericks have 7 of their first 9 games at home, so plenty of opportunities for Dallas Mavericks fans to be able to see their team at the American Airlines Center. And for the Mavericks, a team that was able to do some retooling. They let Derrick Jones Jr. go. He is now, of course, with the Los Angeles Clippers. And in comes in Quentin Grimes, Najee Marshall, and the biggest newcomer of all, Klay Thompson, of course, 4-time NBA champion, 13 seasons in the NBA, and one of the best two-way players during his prime, now has an opportunity in the second act of his career to play alongside Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Luka Doncic, of course, finishing top 3 in the MVP voting. Kyrie Irving coming off a 25-5 year, nearly 50-40-90 as well. The acquisitions of P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford last year, midseason, that propelled this team to what was a 16-4 record in the last 20 games, 16-2 in their most meaningful games, where they became the best defense in the league. There's a lot of expectations, Grant, for this team based off of what they did this offseason and how tough the West is going to be. How do you handicap what the Mavericks not only have done, but as we've now gotten through the preseason and now look forward to this regular season, what are your expectations for this team based off of what they are looking to achieve this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think definitely an expectation would be to get home court advantage in the first round, whether that's like 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed in the Western Conference, because things happen throughout the year that you can't control, like Dwight Powell falling on Kyrie Irving's leg in Portland, causing a 12-game absence, things of that nature. So, if you have some circumstances like that, that might limit your ceiling at times. But just regardless, they're well insulated, I feel like, this season to handle injuries in ways that they haven't been in the past, which is usually like a big indicator for, that success for an 82-game season. They have the two-headed center attack now from the start of the season instead of being a midseason trade acquisition with Daniel Gafford, and Derek Lively. It still remains to be seen who exactly is going to start at that position on day one. They've kind of switched them off in the preseason. Last one to start, I believe, was Daniel Gafford, and he's gotten quite a bit of first-team reps. So that's a great problem to have. This was a team that was coming into last season with a rookie. They wanted to get him settled, so they started Maxi Kleba at the 5 on opening night, and then started Derek for quite a while into the season until Gafford, came into the picture. So that's just a testament to the team that they built, which really raises their floor in the regular season. I think the wing talent is a big difference as well. Grant Williams didn't prove to be a fit last year, and he ended up being a backup center starting on like Christmas Day and onward until he got traded. And now they have PJ Washington, most likely, I would imagine, starting at the 4 again. And then, obviously you mentioned Klay Thompson as well. And there's a lot to be excited about with Klay, obviously like the reputation and everything like that. But, there's just some like little details, with him in the half court offense that I think are going to be really intriguing to watch. Like there was a play, that really just kind of exemplifies the value even without Luka, against the Milwaukee Bucks, where Kyrie screened for Klay. Klay pops out. Kyrie gets the ball, draws 2 defenders, and then Daniel Gafford gets the ball against an out of rotation defense in the paint to finish. So I think things like that are going to be really intriguing to see how it looks with Luka, and that's going to bring a lot of expectations, with the team that's improved quite a bit defensively over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, using Klay as a screener, Klay being screened for by guys like Kyrie Irving and others will be interesting to watch. We know that Klay Thompson coming from Golden State, a lot of motion-based offense that Golden State ran for years and years. It will be interesting to see how the Mavericks look to get Klay in the same spots that he likes to get into, but how they will incorporate him into this offense, knowing that the offense is going to obviously flow through Luka Doncic primarily and then Kyrie Irving. I have a really good sense, though, that Klay will be able to acclimate his game with a lot of catch and shoot opportunities he's going to get. He's going to love getting passes from Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving to be able to knock down a bunch of open shots. Living and playing with these two, I'm sure, will be refreshing given what Klay is at this stage in his career from a physical standpoint. But at the same time, for a guy that was a 39% shooter last year in a quote-unquote down year, Klay's going to have plenty of time to feast on a lot of opportunities he's going to get from Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving within this offense expectedly this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think when watching, because I did like a really detailed, like kind of look at what, Klay could do in like the Mavericks offense and like what we saw from him last year in Golden State and, how the Mavericks may have some overlapping like actions they can use for like a motion shooter, like that they use for Tim Hardaway Jr. Obviously not just going to treat him like that role of, different class of shooter in, my opinion. I think a lot of people would agree with that. So I think there's will be more layers than what we saw from Tim in this offense, like, whether he's like one of the screeners in double drag actions, the back screener and stack pick and roll, all those base like NBA sort of sets that, when you have that guy that can shoot on the move, teams like to use and leverage that gravity. I think we've already saw in the preseason that Klay, could be utilized in, but I think what will be really intriguing is kind of those read and react elements of the offense that the team has kind of implemented in the last, actually really mostly since Kyrie has been involved. They've been really, popping with more players that can attack, off the catch and make, read and react plays like the zoom actions, like the handoffs and delay sets and everything like that. I think, that gravity and the attention that Klay commands along with Kyrie, who, last year, one of the head coaches in the league, like Chauncey Billups, actually called him when I was asking about Kyrie, one of the best screeners, if not the best guard screener in the NBA. So just having someone like that, who's a great ISO player, along with Luka, who's a great ISO player, with Klay, who has that attention, that shooting, and that gravity, that's going to be a very, intriguing read and react combination, especially with 7-footers that can finish in the paint. And, wings that are, in that supporting cast that can, make some plays more than what, some of those wings in previous eras have been in this team, like Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith. So a lot to be excited about for Klay's role in all of that. I do think that, a big difference in Dallas compared to Golden State is just the fact that, Luka and Kyrie are just so effective against switching. I don't think Golden State really had that type of capability. I think that kind of disrupts some of those actions that Klay, usually thrives on, like especially earlier in his career, like the, pin downs, the double wide pin downs and just, ram screens, middle pin downs, all that stuff. Like where if you're just having a big sitting in the paint or just sagging off, you're going to probably get a clean look or just use the shot fake and make a play. But when they switch it, and they have smaller defenders on the floor, that advantage on the initial catch isn't necessarily there. So I think where the benefit's going to be having Luka and Kyrie that can break down, whoever's in front of them for the most part, and make a play, draw two defenders, and kick the ball out to him much better than what he had received, in Golden State. I still think the Warriors are looking for players that can make those plays on a consistent basis, and he's going to be able to have that in Dallas's offense to really, I think, unlock that catch and shoot ability throughout the course of games.
Yeah, and with Klay's ability to knock down these open shots, it just spreads the floor that much more to allow Luka and Kyrie to be able to create off the bounce. And obviously, with the passing ability of Luka and Kyrie, there'll be plenty of opportunities for guys like PJ Washington, for example, to be able to knock down shots. And if he can become a better, corner three-point shooter, this team who wasn't necessarily good percentage-wise at making corner threes last year, even though they took a lot of them, this can really unlock an offense that could be one of the best that we've ever seen, given just the amount of floor spacing that's going to be created with guys' ability to be able to knock down shots. And, part of that too, before we take our break here, Luka Doncic, not just his scoring abilities and his passing abilities, but him potentially playing some off ball as well with the abilities of Kyrie Irving, with Klay Thompson, PJ Washington going to be doing a little bit more ball handling as well, which you've seen take place during the preseason. The idea here is to hopefully take some of that load off of Luka, where last year, averaging nearly 34 points per game. There's a lot for him to take on offensively. This should hopefully be something good throughout the course of the regular season, that by the time we get to the postseason, a fresher Luka, a guy that can really be able to handle and get that load going, obviously, in the postseason. Not that he can't handle it now, but you want to be able to have him as fresh as he can. I think a lot of this, what we'll see during the regular season, is how much can they take off of Luka's plate to have him be able to be that much better when it comes to most important games when we get to, obviously, March, April, and May and into the postseason for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the most important thing. I think if you probably talk to Luka, I've asked him a couple times about handling full court pressure. I remember actually after that kind of underwhelming loss where he didn't play well against New Orleans in that in-season tournament, that ugly purple vomit looking court. I actually asked him because they were picking him up full court really aggressively, and he actually told me that he likes when he's being picked up full court, like it just having that attention and that aggression, with his frame and his skill and his patience, he can kind of create, counters out of that by taking the contact, spinning, and just breaking them down. So I think like that same logic applies with just bringing the ball up in general and getting the offense, initiated. He would probably love to orchestrate every play for the most part. So I think being able to move him around the half court, they've done that increasingly in the last couple of years with the roster being more capable in the ways that we were just talking about, with the wings and, having Kyrie Irving and all that great, skill set to have to take pressure off of Luka, like whether he's playing off the elbow, in a horn set, or, he is in, off the ball, starting out in the corner, getting a handoff and things of that nature. I think that catch and shoot ability really helps in those situations, not obviously on the elbow, but like when he's playing in those actions, like if he's able to get into a quick jumper on a handoff that he's been working on, in his workouts, I think that really opens up options that are like low, I guess you could say like contact, low workload type of shots that, make it easy for him and also make it very challenging for the defense. Because when there's a switch, you're going to have that split second opportunity to take that shot almost no matter what. Like that's just the mechanical result of switching against that type of action, especially that far out, on the 3-point line, since he likes to get some extended catches and touches and everything like that too with his range. So I think that, only helps if he can take those shots a little bit more when they come and, he's feeling the rhythm and everything as he continues to improve that catch and shoot jumper. But I thought like last year, his career high volume, his efficiency was impressive on catch and shoot attempts. And I think in the playoffs, whether it was like off an offensive rebound or they were just finding him organically, he hit some big shots, throughout the course of the postseason with that type of shot. So, just continuing to build on it with Klay Thompson, adding more incentive to play in these different actions and just be active as a unit. I think that will naturally lead to more favorable catch and shoot attempts for Luka within the flow. And so I think that definitely is something that's going to be a big part of his game as he continues to, or a bigger part of his game as he continues to, build with this group. Because there's nothing quite like not having to work to get a bucket. Like that man has some crazy percentages for like unassisted field goal attempts and things of that nature. I think at one point last year I saw it was like 93% or something crazy. So anything to make the job easier for him, definitely. Whether he's the most like excited to not make all the decisions. Not saying he wants to have the ball all the time, but I'm just saying I think he would prefer to. Like not saying like it's a I have to have the ball situation, but I think he would definitely prefer being someone that kind of floor generals things, but I'm sure he's more than happy to also get off the ball and take some of those shots as well too. And I think we'll see more of that this season.
More as we preview the Dallas Mavericks upcoming season, including Luka Doncic declaring himself ready for the season. Plus, what will this bench bring to this Mavericks team as they get ready for the regular season? All that and more coming up next on the other side of the break. But before we get there, let's hear from today's sponsor of our video, and let's hear from Aura. Today's video is sponsored by Aura. This year has seen a number of high-profile data breaches, raising serious concerns about personal information security. Dell suffered a breach exposing 3.9 million customer records, including sensitive personal information. AT&T disclosed 2 breaches, one affecting approximately 2.5 million customers and another one impacting 9 million customers. And finally, Ticketmaster experienced a massive customer breach affecting over 560 million customer records. But most alarming of all, just a few months ago, National Public Data announced that they had suffered a major breach potentially affecting every American. The incident compromised over 2.9 billion records used for background checks, including critical personal information such as full names, addresses, date of birth, phone numbers, and most importantly, social security numbers. It has been confirmed the members of the hacker group have released this sensitive information online for free. If you haven't been taking your online personal information seriously, now is the time to change that. You're more vulnerable than ever in today's digital landscape. Thankfully, I feel secure because I use Aura, today's sponsor. Aura monitors your personal data, including your social security number, across billions of data points like the dark web and public court records to alert you about potential identity theft. They also provide up to $5 million in identity theft insurance in case the worst ever happens. Plus, Aura offers a variety of other features to keep you safe online, including real-time alerts for data breaches, a VPN for secure browsing, data broker opt-out to stop companies from selling your personal information, a password manager to help you create and store strong passwords. I'm not leaving myself and my family vulnerable to data breaches. And if you don't want to either, you can go to aura.com/Kevin Gray to try 2 weeks for free. That will be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal data is exposed. Appreciate you hanging out with us through that spot, and thank you to today's sponsor of our video, in Aura, as the Mavericks get ready for the upcoming season, a much anticipated one as the Mavericks look to get back to the NBA Finals. A difficult Western Conference awaits them with teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder, the prohibitive favorite in the West, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Denver Nuggets, obviously other teams as well who are looking to knock off the Mavericks as they try to get back to the NBA Finals. With Grant Afseth here as we preview the season. Luka Doncic entering his 7th NBA season. Hard to believe it's about to be year 7 for Luka Doncic. 5 consecutive first-team All-NBA selections, top 3 in the MVP voting last year, had a 73-point game, had a 50-point game on Christmas Day. The accolades go on and on and on for arguably the best player in the league, but there have been questions on whether or not he would be ready for the start of the regular season. He spoke earlier this week and declared that he is indeed ready for the season opener when they take on Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs and beyond as the Mavericks get ready for the season. Here's Luka Doncic declaring himself ready to go for this upcoming season. Take a listen and watch.
How you feel? You ready for Thursday?
Yeah. I mean, just finished practice, my bad. Yep. No, I think we're practicing great. I'm just happy to be playing back again. We're playing intensively, so I think we're ready.
The way that Jason talked about it, it sounded like if you really needed to go for the postseason situation, you probably would have been ready for Thursday. It's just a precautionary thing.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an easy injury. It doesn't hurt a lot, but just You got to get healed a lot. Maybe I even started too early, but it's fine now. It's perfect. I'm practicing everything, so I'm good.
Well, there it is. Luka says he's ready to play after dealing with that left calf contusion. He is ready for this season, and obviously for Luka Doncic building that chemistry, Grant, with Kyrie Irving and Klay Thompson. Kyrie Irving declaring on media day the new big three, if you will, with Luka, Kyrie, and Klay Thompson. This team has a lot of expectation in front of it, but in a lot of ways, Grant, it's going to be about the other guys. We started to mention a little bit with PJ Washington, Derek Lively II, who is looking for a sensational second-year jump, if you will, in his sophomore year. But the additions of Quentin Grimes and Najee Marshall and Daniel Gafford obviously coming off the bench, it appears that this team is deep enough, basically 1 through 8, 1 through 9, to really give themselves a chance night in and night out. Let's talk about the importance of these guys outside of Luka, Kyrie, and Klay that is really going to have a dramatic effect on this team. And we'll start, obviously, with the second-year player, Derek Lively, who we've seen in the preseason add a little bit of, jump hook to his game, lefty finishes, showing some footwork, being able to handle the ball in the open court a little bit. Obviously, there's a lot of anticipation on whether or not he's going to be knocking down threes as well. A lot to be excited about when it comes to Derek Lively II this upcoming year and what he can bring to the table, not just offensively, but defensively as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He talks about, wanting to dominate the paint, wanting to own the paint. And that's something that's definitely been a big emphasis working with, Tyson Chandler, Sean Sweeney, both, off season and now. And they're getting in a lot of extra work, every time that we come in there, as reporters and see, what they're working on the floor. There's always a very close attention to detail. As you said, working on the footwork, working on the hooks. Working on also like this little counter move, like faking the drop step, going middle, and finishing the hook. So they're really building, the foundation of a post game. And I thought it was interesting actually when
let me tell you something. If Derek Lively come out there with a dream shake on opening night, I'm gonna lose my mind. Okay, with a dream shake. At any point during the season, I'm gonna lose my mind if Derek Lively gets a little dream shake to his game too, for sure.
That's hilarious. Yeah, he's been definitely getting better and better. In the post, a little more patient, and honestly getting to the spot and knowing what he wants to do, reading the defender, and I think something that was really interesting in preseason. When he was doing that Raising Cane's event, I had asked him about. Like working with Klay, they were working a lot on handoffs. And, there was a point where Derek was saying to Klay, I'm not shooting the ball. You're shooting the ball. Tell me how you want the ball. And, they were, I asked him about that basically later on that day at the Canes event. And he was just saying, he's, really wanting to learn, the rhythm that Klay has as a shooter, how he wants the ball. And then he got into some interesting tendencies of what he's already learned about, like when he's coming off right, when he's coming off left, and just things like that I think when you have that natural curiosity and that like really like assertive leadership from a player like Derek, who's in his second year, that goes a long way. And on the flip side of that, I actually asked Klay, so Derek went off or went on about the things that he learned about you, when you're working on those handoffs. Just what have you learned about him so far, just in general? And then he had mentioned that he's got an underrated post game. He thinks he's going to keep the the sky hook going or the hook shot going forward in today's NBA. In an era where there's less post ups than in the past. So I thought that was kind of cool. For him to be a newcomer and talk about the development of an area where the focus for the team has been there for Derek to improve. In Vegas, they had talked about even Quentin Grimes as well. I'd asked him about Derek's post ups, and he's talked about the patience, the overall just capability has been impressive to him too. So that's a great sign when multiple new additions to a team kind of make that same observation early on. And I think, just in the concept of the team overall, I think it's going to be very important at times for him to, be able to be capable in the post, because it seems like they want to play a little bit more in the middle of the floor. Obviously, that's not always going to be a post up where he's looking to score or anything of that nature, but just having his back to the basket, making decisions, continuing to make great reads. But also when teams like in the NBA Finals and other teams in the playoffs, like that the Mavericks saw during their postseason run, they really like to try to get away with cross matching, where they had like a Jason Tatum on Derek and put the center to roam off of like a PJ Washington, and that really like jams up what you want to do and makes you waste more of the shot clock, since those screening actions don't really create that initial advantage that you would like. So if you can get into a situation where Derek's capable against players like a Jason Tatum, or you're just using off-ball screens to get a different switch, and he's able to punish that makes it harder for the defense to get away with putting, like a rim protector or just a defensive liability at the center, on someone cross-matched like a PJ Washington, or, last year it was mostly Derek Jones. So that kind of gets into the whole team, concept of really trying to pick on that cross-matching, where, now Derek Jones isn't the weakest link in terms of shooting on the court. Now it's PJ Washington. I think I'd feel a little bit better about that overall, and especially with his offensive skill set. So if, we were talking about the players outside of, the big three stars that are important, I think that's where PJ comes into the mix as well, where, knocking down those open shots, whether he's spacing the floor, whether, he's the one being brought in as a screener because he has the center on him and he's picking and popping. That's really important to knock down shots, but also attacking those closeouts, all that stuff. Both of those guys are going to be very important, particularly in those areas, because I think if you can really punish teams and make it uncomfortable to cross match, you don't want to play traditional pick and roll coverage against Luka Doncic, really, or against Kyrie Irving either. But you also don't want the five truly on the five, because then those off ball screens for Klay become easier. You don't really want to give up the switch. Makes it a little easier to flow into other stuff for the Mavericks as well too. So I just think that's probably where you would want to see the most improvement from their offenses, with those two guys in particular, or even just being able to rely on Daniel Gafford if he's the one on the floor at the five, if he can, pick on some of those, smaller defenders as well. He's shown to be capable of it, at times as well too. So just, being able to rely on that five spot to do it, whether it's Derek or Daniel, will go a long way.
Yeah, they arguably have, in my mind, a top 2, top 3 center duo in the league when you look at Lively and Gafford and the versatility that both of them bring. I would project that Derek Lively would be the starter for this team throughout the course of the year, with Daniel Gafford getting spot starts throughout the year. This is a guy in Gafford who apparently during the offseason, added 20 pounds of muscle. You can tell he's getting, a little bit bigger to be able to bank and be able to handle himself, in the trenches, if you will, to use a football term, to be able to, to be a good rebounder, but also continue to utilize his ability to finish at the rim. And we saw last year how good he was, his efficiency at the rim. Lively doing the same as well. They've got guys that can finish, but also, and you've talked about it a little bit, Lively's ability as a screener got much better at that as the year went on. Again, versatility within this offense and his ability now to add these other elements to his game. The Mavericks are going to create a lot of problems for teams on defense just because of the amount of IQ that's on the floor between Luka, Kyrie, Klay Thompson, but the emerging, IQ, if you will, of Derek Lively, who's getting better and better, not just, as a rim runner and as a, rim protector on the other end, but showing the ability to be a little bit of a good passer as well. We saw some elements of that last year, making some passes out of the short roll as well. Lively and his versatility on both ends of the floor is going to be really fun to watch and chronicle throughout this year. And the Gafford coming in on the back end of that, a really solid duo for the Mavericks at the center position, which kind of gets us to, some of the bench guys when we look at Quentin Grimes and Najee Marshall, Jaden Hardy getting a, 3-year, $18 million contract extension as well, solidifying himself potentially as a real contributor to this rotation, a guy who became a little bit better as a playmaker as well. Of those guys that we are looking at off the bench, whether it be Marshall, Grimes, Hardy, obviously Dante Exum is going to be out for a while with the wrist injury, having wrist surgery there. Maxi Kleber is still a veteran on this team. This Mavericks bench seems to be pretty deep, but to me, the versatility of Quentin Grimes and Najee Marshall, those two I think are going to be the real focal points for this team coming off the bench this year for the Mavericks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're going to be a really interesting defensive group. Because I think, referring back to, Jason Kidd's interview, with your teammate, Mark Stein, like in training camp, he mentioned Maxi Kleber at that 4 spot. And so if you kind of put the pieces together for what that defense will look like, whoever's playing the 5, whether that's, Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford, that's a rim protector, anchoring the defense. And if you have Maxi Kleber, that's 6'10" with length to be that low defender, also be capable of switching. But that also having that presence out there lets Najee Marshall really get into the ball as the on-ball defender. And I think that is a great, 3-player, I guess you could say kind of core for a defense when you're out in the course of a game. That's really tough and frustrating to face if you're the other team. Like you're in the early second quarter, mid second quarter, whatever it may be, or second half, game starting to wear down. That's not a fun team to have to face. And then you have Quentin Grimes as well as someone who's a competitive on-ball defender who can get around screens and fight through that kind of contact as well too. So, and then I would assume that backcourt you're going to have one of obviously Kyrie Irving staggering that playing time once again. With Luka Doncic, where he's the one running that second unit, and then that last spot may go to like a Jaden Hardy or a Spencer Dinwiddie, while you have Dante Exum sidelined as well too. So definitely going to be interesting to see. I think Jaden Hardy has managed to improve defensively since we first saw him in Dallas. I think that's something he's taken pride in. So seeing how he can manage to round out his game overall, I think he's set up well to prove himself this year. In that regard, as a consistent rotation player, if he seizes that opportunity, because if he has that off the dribble juice, if you will, he could be a impressive option to kind of flank Kyrie Irving in those situations throughout games, where you have that, backcourt punch. He's improved into being a, really solid off the catch guy, whether he's taking the catch and shoot jumper or attacking the closeout. And, I think overall, that could be an essential skill set if you have someone like Maxi Kleber at the 4, because you're kind of conceding the off the dribble capabilities in the other parts of the unit, like that 3 through 5, like the front court. If you do have Maxi out there for that defensive versatility, so that's where whoever's that guard next to Kyrie, I think is going to have to be a very capable creator who can make those off the catch plays and also not be like a negative defensively as well too. But I think that could be a really solid unit overall. It's kind of crazy the overall progression of this roster since when we really first started talking about this team, even before Kyrie Irving. Because first it was like, can they get a co-star to just be on the court when Luka Doncic isn't in the game? Now it's like, oh, they have all these other pieces. They're building an identity for that bench group. So definitely going to be, a very important part of the team, and definitely excited to be able to see that progression throughout this year, because having that deep team is definitely nice, instead of some of these teams in the NBA where you're covering them and it's like the Denver Nuggets and they're like, Jokic isn't on the court, we have a -10 net rating all year. What you can just kind of waving the white flag when those starters come out, for sure.
Yeah, which is why I think a lot of folks feel like this is a team that legitimately can finish in the top 2 of the West, if not potentially, win the West during the regular season. We know how good Oklahoma City is going to be with the acquisitions of, Isaiah Hartenstein and obviously Alex Caruso, and how young and talented their core is, which led by SGA. But at the same time, the Mavericks have assembled themselves a team that is deep and can compete at the top. And Quentin Grimes, who was, in talks to potentially get a contract extension, it didn't necessarily work out. He's put himself in a real good position that if he plays well this year, he's going to have some real market, after this upcoming year as a restricted free agent. But at the Mavericks do have a chance with him to really get a guy that can handle the ball, can shoot the ball from 3, but is a willing defender and a good one and a athletic young one as well. The Mavericks, it seems like, even though they're the 5th oldest team coming into the league this year, there's a lot to like about the younger core that they have when you're talking about Luka and Derek Lively, obviously potentially with Quentin Grimes being there long-term, as well. The Mavericks have got a really good group here that should really give teams problems this year. And if they play up to their full potential, this is arguably one of the most dangerous teams in the league, because offensively, there's not going to be able much to do with them night in and night out, led by Luka. Again, health obviously is the biggest thing, here for them. But if so, yeah, this team is going to be devastatingly good offensively. can they remain where they were or close to where they were defensively, I think is the biggest question for this team. And if they can be, again, we said it coming into last year, if they could be just in the middle of the pack defensively, this team is going to win 50-plus games. And when they finally got to that point, it took them, a 20-game stretch to be the best defense in the league to really kind of get there. You saw what they were capable of doing. Again, I think that's the baseline once again. If you can be a, top half, of the league defense, you're going to win yourself a minimum 50 games, given how good this offense is going to be this year.
Yeah, definitely. Because now they have that option. We were talking about like that bench group, like with Jaden Hardy and Quentin Grimes as options. You can just actually choose what you want in terms of like a particular matchup. Like if you just want to really load up defensively, you can just surround Kyrie Irving with the best defensive options out there and, win those minutes. Or if you, feel confident in just wanting that offensive firepower, you can maybe go with, someone like, Jaden, Spencer, Dante, or just stick with Quentin Grimes as well too. So I think there's a lot of options. I think another thing that will be interesting is just like how willing they are and with small ball as well too in that group. Because, I think if you have Najee Marshall at the 4 and you have more perimeter, players on the court, I was talking about Maxi Kleber earlier at the 4, but if you have Najee Marshall there, that's a lot of athleticism, versatility that kind of gives you, like that hard-nosed defensive overall identity while having even more offensive firepower too. So I think that's where you really get into like looking at the margins, and a team that has options is definitely a team that is well positioned because you can toggle through different things. And that's where, that coaching staff element, they're going to have a lot of things to be able to throw out there that kind of feed back into not conceding too much defensively for the sake of offensive firepower, throughout the course of a game. So definitely like a really strong foundation. And I think they're set up well to be one of those better, not an elite defense. I would say maybe not like we'll have to see it in practice, not like I wouldn't shoot them in as obviously like a top 5 defense or anything like that. But I think being very good, as you said, like being above average goes a long way for a high offensive firepower team. So I think at least having a floor like that goes a long way. I do think, there's a lot of motivation as well too with this group where you would want it to be. Like Klay mentioned, we cannot talk about defense without mentioning what Klay said in preseason. He said that he wants to prove or really show people, that he hasn't had that fall off or that decline defensively. Those are not his exact words by any means. I'm butchering his quote, but he basically said he wants to prove he still got it defensively. So when you have those players that are motivated to make that impact, I think that goes a long way. This is a group, when you're coming off that finals loss, and then you have other newcomers that are motivated to really set a tone for themselves as well too. That's a great identity or foundation to have as a defensive group.
Yeah, a motivated Klay Thompson on the defensive end. If he could just be a plus defender on that side of the floor, the Mavericks are going to be just fine this season. We know for Klay, who's at one time was one of the best two-way players in the league, if he has anything close to that, the Mavericks are going to be just fine defensively because I think the buy-in is there. We saw it last year during the second half of the year and how it carried them to the NBA Finals. If they bring that same mentality this year, this team is going to have a lot of success even in a difficult Western Conference. So a lot to look forward to for this team this upcoming year, a lot to digest and get ready for. But this Mavericks team has a chance to make a real run at it once again in a deep playoff run in the NBA and hopefully get back to the NBA Finals and take the next step in terms of winning it this time around. Grant, tell the folks where they can find you and what work they can look forward to seeing from you this upcoming year, man.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of Mavericks content on that DallasHoopsJournal.com. So definitely, if you haven't already, you can be a free subscriber or, be a pay subscriber as well to see every piece of content on there too. So definitely a lot of things throughout the entire year. I'll be doing, every game as well, like the home and away games as well too. So year-round coverage of the team, just at a different place, where I have the ability to kind of do whatever formats like these practice insights where I'm kind of putting the video clips in there and giving observations, a little different than the 250 word quote hit publish sort of ecosystem that some of sites kind of want people doing right now. So more emphasis on the quality as opposed to the quantity for sure.
Looking forward to that. And you can find me on X at Kevin Gray Sports, covering the Mavericks 5 times a week, pre and post game shows for DLLS Mavs on DLLS Sports. Again, we will be doing this 2 to 3 times a week here, where we get a chance to get together, talk about the Mavericks, drop our insights on this platform as well. You'll be able to like, comment, and subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. You can do the same for Grant as well. Make sure you're subscribing to his YouTube channel as well, at Grant Afseth. Got a lot of tremendous insights, and we'll be covering this team extremely well throughout the course of the year. So much so that even Mark Cuban was like, hey, Grant knows what he's talking about. You make sure you go follow Grant and all of his insights when it comes to this team. One of the best in the game. Happy to be able to do this again a few times a week here when it comes to talking about this Mavericks team. So really looking forward to doing that this upcoming year. That'll do it for our Mavericks preview season preview here on our YouTube channel. Again, you can find me on X at Kevin Gray Sports. Make sure you follow Grant on X at Grant Afseth as well. Again, we'll do this 2 to 3 times a week here, so make sure you're looking out for it here on our YouTube channels. For Grant and Kevin, we'll talk to you later. Peace.